Before we get rolling, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and hit like and subscribe if you hate entitled people with fast cars. Oh, and check out my second channel for more drama links below. Alright, here goes. My name's Drake Harbor, and if you'd asked me a year ago, I'd have told you my life was set. I'm 42, grew up in the tough neighborhoods of East Atlanta, hustled my way through college with a laptop that was always overheating, and somehow managed to turn that and a whole lot of caffeine into a consulting firm that rakes in millions now. Jasmine. My wife is just as stubborn and twice as smart. She made senior partner at her law firm, youngest black woman in Georgia to do it. And let me tell you, we thought moving into Ridgemont Hills was our victory lap. You know what I mean? We'd finally made it to the kind of place where the lawns are always green. The driveways all curve in slow, lazy S's, and every other neighbor waves like they're happy you exist, except, well, those smiles never really reached their eyes. Right away, it was clear we didn't really fit in. Not that anyone ever said it out loud, but you could feel it. Every HOA meeting felt like a courtroom. Every suggestion we made picked apart side-eyed or just straight up ignored. But hey, we kept going. I wanted to celebrate Jasmine making partners, so I went out and bought her dream car, the wildest, most bubblegum pink Porsche 911 you ever saw. She used to joke about it every time she walked past the dealership on the way to court, saying, "One day I'm going to buy that ridiculous pink car and drive it right up to the courthouse just to watch all the boring lawyers freak out." So when she finally got her name on that partnership letter, I made it happen. And you should have seen the look on the salesman's face when I paid for the thing in full American Express card on the counter, no haggling, no payment plan. He nearly choked. The morning it happened started out like a fairy tale. Jasmine had to get up early for some huge deposition. She kissed me goodbye, and even though her new Porsche was sitting in the driveway looking like a candy wrapper in the sun, she drove her regular BMW because, appearances. Said she didn't want to look like she was compensating for something. So I was upstairs getting ready for a Zoom call with some execs from California when I heard that Porsche startup. And immediately my stomach dropped because Jasmine was already downtown texting me her coffee order on the courthouse steps. I looked out the window just in time to see a flash of platinum blonde hair behind the wheel as the car disappeared down Oakbrook Lane. I wish I was making this up. There I was staring at an empty driveway thinking I must be losing it, but nope. Someone had just stolen my wife's car right there in broad daylight in a neighborhood where people call the cops if your dog barks twice in a row. My hands were shaking as I called Jasmine. "Babe, please tell me you came back for the Porsche." She was dead silent for a beat, then her lawyer voice came on sharp as glass. "Drake." "What happened?" I explained. "Blonde woman Porsche gone." She went quiet again, and I could tell she was already making a mental checklist. "Drake, are you telling me someone stole my car from our driveway at 9 a.m.? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Ring doorbell notification. I opened it, and there she was on camera. A young white woman, platinum blonde, pink Ralph Lauren polo, white tennis skirt, walking up like she owned the place. Keys in hand, even waved at the camera before driving off. Jasmine took one look and said, "That's Brittany Henderson, Richard Henderson's daughter." "Yeah, the HOA president's little princess. 3 doors down." Of course it was. The Hendersons' house is a mini White House knockoff, and Richard struts around like every conversation is a negotiation he's already won. Brittany. I'd seen her before, always in a convertible, always talking way too loud on the phone about how much Atlanta bored her. Now she'd decided to take our car for a joyride. I called 911. And get this, the dispatcher sounded like I'd interrupted her lunch. She actually asked if I was sure it wasn't some kind of informal arrangement between neighbors. "Ma'am, it's a $150,000 Porsche, not a lawnmower." Finally, she agreed to send officers, so while I waited, I started doing my own digging, rewatching the Ring video, trying to figure out how Brittany got the keys. She walked up like she was borrowing a cup of sugar, didn't even bother to look around. Jasmine was already packing up to leave court. "Drake, Do you remember anything weird the Hendersons have said about sharing or community property? Actually, yeah, I remembered Richard joking at the last HOA meeting about successful neighbors sharing their good fortune. At the time, I thought he was talking about donations, but now I was wondering if he meant cars. 40 minutes later, the police rolled up. 2 officers, Martinez, all business, and Bradley, who looked like he'd rather be golfing. They started by asking if maybe my wife had lent the car out, and when I pushed back, Bradley kind of gave me that look, like maybe I was the one who didn't belong here. Martinez took it seriously, though. When I showed them the video, Bradley perked up at Brittany's name. Richard Henderson. Oh, I know Rick. Great guy, very involved, of course. That's when Martinez's radio came to life. There'd been a single vehicle crash involving a pink Porsche on Peachtree Boulevard. I just knew. The police took off and I followed. The Porsche was wrapped around a utility pole hood, smoking, and Brittany was on the sidewalk putting on the waterworks, screaming about how the brakes didn't work and that she was going to sue whoever owned the junk. The crowd was growing and suddenly she was blaming me. "Your car almost killed me. This is your fault." She claimed she had every right to drive cars in the neighborhood. My daddy is HOA president, and Bradley, now very sympathetic, asked if she was sure she didn't have permission. Martinez cut through the nonsense. "Miss Henderson, regardless of any neighborhood arrangements, this is theft." Brittany, panicking, pulled out her phone and called her dad. He showed up minutes later in his black Escalade custom plates, HOA1, acting like he owned the street. "Officers, this is a misunderstanding. In Ridgemont Hills, we share things. He actually accused me of leaving a trap for his daughter by parking the car where she could see it." I nearly laughed, but he was dead serious, kept making veiled threats about knowing the police chief, the mayor, you name it. And just as the whole scene was about to spiral, a woman in business clothes stepped out of the crowd, flashing a badge, Detective Sarah Morrison, Internal Affairs. She'd overheard Henderson's threats and had been recording everything. Suddenly, Henderson's whole act changed. He was sweating bullets, stumbling over his words, trying to explain away everything. Martinez finally had backup. When the search warrant came through for the Henderson house, I went with them, and it was like stepping onto the set of a reality show. Gold everything, mirrors everywhere, and Brittany's room was a shrine to pink. That's where they found the relay device high-tech gadget for stealing keyless cars, along with Brittany's laptop open to forums on redistributing automotive wealth. She even had a handwritten hit list of minority families with expensive cars with our names right at the top. But the kicker was her phone text messages to her friend Madison talking about stealing the Porsche, faking an injury, and even boasting about how her dad would make everything disappear. There was nothing left to argue. This was organized crime, not some spoiled kid acting out. Henderson tried to claim he had no idea, but the cover-up, the intimidation, the threats, he was all in. The neighborhood was watching. Mrs. Chen down the block had live-streamed half the argument. The news camera crews were already outside. Jasmine's response. She called me from her office. "Drake, get that Channel 7 reporter and tell them about HOA corruption, intimidation, the works." Jasmine does not play around. While Henderson kept trying to get the story killed, Morrison was already drawing up a warrant to search for evidence of key duplication, and every second the situation got bigger. Soon, it wasn't just about Brittany. Detective Morrison found a whole network of entitled kids using gadgets to steal cars from families they thought didn't belong, targeting minorities, tracking their routines, sharing legal advice in secret online groups. Brittany's world unraveled fast. She ended up at the hospital making a scene, screaming at Dr. Patel, a Harvard-educated ER doctor, that his accent meant he wasn't qualified. In front of witnesses, she finally let the mask slip, saying, "People like us didn't belong in Ridgemont Hills," and calling it resource redistribution. Morrison recorded every word. That's how it all went down. Federal charges, news stories everywhere. The HOA president stripped of his power. Jasmine and the legal dream team launching a $50 million lawsuit, not just for theft, but for civil rights violations, conspiracy, and hate crimes. The investigation took down a network stretching across North Atlanta. Rich kids, politicians' children, lawyers' kids, all thinking they'd never get caught. The mastermind, Chase Whitmore, son of a state senator, got 22 years for running what he called the Luxury Liberation Network. Henderson went to prison. Brittany took a plea deal and got 5 years. 6 months later, Ridgemont Hills was a different place. The HOA board got cleaned out, replaced by folks who actually cared about the community, Mrs. Chen, Dr. Patel, even me. We started a fund for families who'd been targeted, made real changes. Jasmine's new Porsche custom-ordered sat in the driveway at our block party, surrounded by kids taking pictures and eating mac and cheese. The parents all said the same thing. They almost gave up and moved out, but now this place finally feels like home. And you know what? The best part wasn't the money or the new car. It was seeing the neighborhood come together, seeing people who used to look through us suddenly see us not as outsiders, but as neighbors. Even Madison Sterling, one of Brittany's co-conspirators, texted me later to say she'd changed, gone back to school to study social justice volunteering to help hate crime victims. I showed Jasmine the message. She smiled and said, "You know what that means? We didn't just win, we actually changed a heart." So yeah, sometimes the best revenge isn't payback, it's building something better. We turned a moment of outrage into a whole new way of living for everyone. Now, I want to hear your thoughts. What would you have done if this happened to you? Do you think justice was served? Is there such a thing as too much privilege? Or was it just bad parenting gone wild? Drop your thoughts below and let's talk about what it really means to belong somewhere.